So the green flag does wave, and we do have one driver that has been unable to make it out of the pre-grid, the 134 of Kaz Tobin. Here is the starting grid for Minimax. Pre-final, day 1. So after time qualifying, it was nip and tuck between Matej Radenkovic and Mies Huben. 59.076 for the 196 from Huben Power. So he took pole. Huben will be alongside on the front row. It's Lawrence Herboz and Thijs Stevens, the 198 and the 182. Jake Menton in the 131 and Mats van Rooyen complete the top 3 rows. Looks like Kaz Tobin has actually managed to get out of the dummy grid. He's filtering through into turn number 2 as we speak. Now into 3, and is due to start 7th. And if Kaz Tobin is able to take the place, he's meant to frequent on the grid. It will be alongside the 122 of Lars Lambers, with Latvia's Bruno Brazelis in the 138, rounding out the 9-strong grid. So the formation is starting to take shape through turn 8. So I imagine that the way things are going, as long as Kaz Tobin catches up to them quick enough, as the 134 is making it through to the Europolan, whilst the rest are at turn 9. Kaz Tobin might be able to take that place. Hang on a second, let's see if this does happen. And looks to be pulling to the back of the grid, which is the only logical conclusion. So, 13 minutes on the clock. Red lights on the gantry, into the tram lights. Revs rise, are we ready? Lights are out. We are away and going, and we've gone racing. And Mies Huben is being hung out to dry a little bit. Courtesy of Lawrence Herboz, I believe, as they make their way through into turn 3 for the first time. All a little bit sideways from the back rear. Right of Huben going through the exit of turn number 3, but the youngster from the Netherlands keeps it under control. He goes back up into second position for Herboz side by side. They're nearly rubbing wheels going down the Europolan, and Mies Huben is saying, come on, work with me. The field makes its way through turn number 8 for the first time of asking. Further back, Kaz Tobin has got past Brazelis, I believe, through into turn 9 as Radenkovic leads the way. Followed by Huben. Followed by Herboz. Then it's Thijs Stevens in the 182 that rounds out the top 4, right on the back bumper of the driver in front. So Radenkovic leads after the first lap. Gap between him and Huben is 0.384. Side by side nearly as Stevens looked up the inside of Herboz going into the approach into turn 2. Herboz keeps it planted. Jake Menton rounds out the top 5. It's fast becoming a bit of a dogfight out there here in Minimax. Trying to make it as nice and clean as possible. Going through the respective parts of the circuit as Stevens up the inside, nearly got through on Lawrence Herboz through turn 7, but was denied at the final second. Right there and then. This is allowing the likes of Jake Menton, Mats van Rooyen to close up. Radenkovic is just controlling proceedings at the minute. However, that's going to evolve over the next 11 minutes and 10 seconds, plus an additional lap is anyone's guess. And yours, ladies and gentlemen, is probably as good as mine. Lap 2 in the books. Radenkovic still leads. Huben in second. Herboz, Stevens, Menton. Van Rooyen. So through onto the Europelan once again, this time on lap number 3 out of this race. Starting to get into a steady rhythm with some of the drivers. Kasthoven, who was due to have started in 7th position, but due to an issue, the engine not being compliant in starting up, that meant that he had to start from the back end of the grid, but is trying to close down on Laurens Lambers from Belgium. 3rd and 4th still being hotly contested. Herbold still keeping Tay Stevens at bay. Through into turn number 12 once again. Radenkovic looks to have opened up that gap on Mies Huben. The gap was 0.6. It's now 0.8. Herbold has got Stevens right behind. Menton has got Van Rooyen not too far behind either. But the biggest battle is between Herbold and Stevens for P3. Through turn 4, now into the left-hander at 5. Before the sharp braking zone into the right-hand hairpin at 6, going onto the Europelan. Stevens at the moment doesn't. Well, he's looking again up the inside. It's side by side between the pair, and Stevens gets the job done this time. Neatly executed by the 182 from the Netherlands. So Herbold now drops down to 4th place, and quickly behind is the number 131 of Jake Menton. So everyone giving it their all. I know that Mies Huben's got a slight hand injury, but nevertheless he's just grinning and bearing it and just going through and just racing his heart out. That's all we can ask of these drivers at the end of the day. 1.188 seconds is the gap between the two at the front of the field. But the move from Tay Stevens through turn 7 off of the Europlan was mightily impressive to see. 8 minutes and 40 to go, plus an additional lap in this one. Bet your bottom dollar there's going to be a few more changes over the next few laps. As Jake Menton now is fractionally behind Laurens Herbold for what is P3. So the leader's now, well, the leader now making his way, Matej Radenkovic. Always got time for enthusiastic support networks, and Matej Radenkovic's dad is definitely one of them. So is Nico Huben, Mies' dad as well. It's a lot of parents that really do. They go through every single emotion when it comes to racing. You know, I know some parents don't like looking at the start. It's always heart in the mouth, eyeballs on stalks, especially with the youngest categories as well. But Radenkovic is charging away from Huben and is galloping off into the distance. But then things a little bit further behind now. Matej Radenkovic has set the fastest lap of the race, a 59.380 on the completion of lap number 4. And Radenkovic is not looking back. 6 minutes down, 7 to go. Another lap completed. Lap 6 done. We're on to lap 7. And Radenkovic leads by over 1.8 seconds. Herbold's trying to get back on terms with Tay Stevens for P3. I have seen it before where turns 3, 4 and 5, the triple left versus the triple right at turn 8 at Istanbul Park in Formula 1. Very, very demanding because you're constantly having to just put the kart exactly where you think it's going to stick and hope it does, and also have the confidence to do the weight transfer. And sometimes with particular corners, some drivers will lean, depending on where the apex is, they'll lean in the opposite direction to it, just to help get that little bit of extra traction on the outside set of wheels on that respective side. So if it's in a right, you're trying to put more weight on the left to help manage that traction and give the full purchase of the tyres as possible. Dave Stevens takes a quick glance over the right shoulder, and Lawrence Helbos was right up the exhaust pipe on that one, going through into turn number 2, but a little bit further back. Mas van Rooyen and Jake Menton continue their squabble over P5. And there is a perfect example of what I was just explaining from Jake Menton. Going into the right-hander at turn 6, it just completely leans to one side. And look, going through turn 8, you can just see. And then it's a quick weight transfer going from 8 into 9. So a perfect example there. Big thank you to the camera crew for picking that up. But apart from the battle between Jake Menton and Mats van Rooyen, the battle for second's really starting to get a bit heated under the collar, so to speak. Mies Huben, Dave Stevens and Lawrence Helbos, they were covered by less than half a second after 8 laps. And if Dave Stevens was any wider going through turn 3, I think Lawrence Helbos would have had an opportunity to get up the inside and get through to P3. And it was close then again, going through turn 6 onto the Europolar. On the back straight away they go. Dave Stevens looks over the right shoulder and prominently sees Lawrence Helbos front and centre right behind. Less than 4.5 minutes to go, plus an additional lap of this first of 4 races. So a pre-final and a final for all 6 classes today, a pre-final and a final for tomorrow. Denkovic comes out of the final corner again. Now we're going to head on to lap 10. The lead was the best part of 2 and a bit seconds. It's now 2.6. Stevens and Helbos fancy an opportunity at second, but with the calibre of Mies Huben, despite the hand injury, he's charging on. And I have so much respect for any of the drivers that are getting onto the circuit here this weekend. This is something I could never do. And at this young age, just the sheer factor of what they want to do later on in life is just so prominent. And this is one of the formation blocks. This is one of the starting points of any young driver's careers. And the list of names that have come through racing here at Karting Genk: Max Verstappen, Jenson Button, Dries and Laurent Vantour, Andre Lotterer, Stoffel van Doorn. The list goes on and on. And maybe in years to come, we'll mention other names as well that have been through the hallowed halls of Karting Genk and been competing in championships like the BNL Karting Series. As Stevens gets closer and closer, that was very, very tight between him and also Mies Huben going through into turn 2. Stevens had a good run on the 108 from GKS Levens Power. We're into the last 2.5 minutes. And Denkovic's lead after lap number 10 was just over 3 seconds. Huben's just trying to hang on in there. As they say, when the going get tough, the tough get going. And that's exactly what Mies Huben is showing. A lot of intestinal fortitude from the young Dutchman. So every single one of the 9 drivers that started this race are still circulating. We're on lap number 12. Looks like Lawrence Helbos has slightly dropped off the pace a little bit here. And did a 58.889 in comparison with the 2 drivers in front, Huben and Stevens, who did respectively 59.7s. So with the pace, I think we're going to have 15 laps of completed circulation around this circuit, 1.36 kilometers. And Radenkovic is 3.7 seconds ahead of Mies Huben, who has done a fantastic job of just staying in second. Initially tried to close in on Matej Radenkovic, but Radenkovic was wanting to scarf her away into the distance. There is Jake Menton and Mats van Rooyen right on the back bumper, going through the right-hand sweeper at turn 8 into 9. Menton runs a little bit wider coming out of the corner, and that could give van Rooyen the opportunity for 5th, because we're now going to go on to the penultimate lap of this race. So 13 laps completed, 2 to go. As he crossed the line, did Radenkovic with 6 seconds on the clock. And is now 4 seconds ahead. Huben and Stevens now second and third still. They've been like this for quite a time, but will Stevens in the next lap and a bit manage to close in and pass the 108? Not if Mies Huben can help it, as through into the apex of turn 6 onto the Europalan. Stevens looked for a gap, it wasn't quite there, but still nailed the outside apex coming through out of turn 7. And Huben read the move. Timer has now expired, and Radenkovic will be now exiting turn 11 very shortly, and does so. But the battle for second and third really waging on. Last lap board now being shown to Belgium's Matej Radenkovic. This will give him his 4th victory of the season, as Huben has got Thijs Stevens closing, and closing fast. But Huben was able to break the toe. Stevens unable to use the slingshot momentum into turn 2 that was used to good effect at the opening salvo of the race as he got past Laurens Herboz. But Radenkovic now about to hit turn 7 at the end of the Europalan for what is going to be the 15th and final time. Huben now realises he's got to defend, because Stevens is closing in and is right with the 108. This is going to go down to the wire if Stevens nails the apex coming through turn 12. As Radenkovic now exits turn 10 and into 11. Huben's looking over his left and right shoulders respectively, because the checkered flag is now being prepared. Out of the final corner, Matej Radenkovic wins a 4th time this season, and Huben's going to hang on, it looks like. Yes, he's gotten away from Thijs Stevens, and Huben takes a well-deserved 2nd position. Thijs Stevens takes 3rd place ahead of Laurens Herboz. Mats van Rooyen got past Jake Menton to secure 5th on the final lap of the race. And Lars Lambers, Kaz Tobben and Bruno Brazalis round out the 9 strong. But Matej Radenkovic, that was a dominant, calm, composed performance. So let's have a look at the final results from that one. Matej Radenkovic wins by just over 4.5 seconds ahead of Mies Huben. Thijs Stevens narrowly misses out on P2, ends up 3rd. Laurens Herboz, Mats van Rooyen, Jake Menton, Lars Lambros, Kaz Tobben and Bruno Brazalis from Latvia rounds out the 9 strong that finished all 15 laps.